This is a Brooklyn News special report.
And it is so good to be with you. I'm Jackson Mitchell. A busy day already, a busy Thanksgiving day, I should say. Here from Brooklyn News headquarters, I'm Jackson Mitchell. We are following this breaking news where we are standing by there for a press conference to begin over at the Attorney of the District of Columbia's office, Janine Pirro. We expect that to start here at any moment. An update on the shooting that occurred yesterday, right after about 2 p.m., when someone described now as an Afghanistan national kind of ran up on these two National Guard, later confirmed to be West Virginia National Guard, and shot them. Last update we had was from yesterday. We learned they were in the hospital, both in separate hospitals, yet in critical condition. Now, there was some conflicting information released late yesterday, saying they had both died from West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey. He has since called back that claim, fell back on that claim, saying, well, now he's getting conflicting reports. Now we're going to get a really big, what we expect to be a pretty big update here on what's going on. Some questions to go into this man's past. Of course, his name has been released. Uh, his name has been released by multiple news stations, of course, being unable to independently confirm that at this hour. But again, we are waiting for this press conference to begin. I want to go back to what my thought was there. Some questions to be asked on who this man is, where things stand. Was he a part of the Afghanistan military fighting against the Taliban? That's been something that has been rumored. Is that true? Have investigators gotten to that point in their investigation? Because late yesterday at that press conference, it was said that the suspect is said to be a lone sole actor in this shooting, in this targeted attack, I should say, and that he was in the hospital. So, what kind of answers do investigators have right now? A really good question. We have video from yesterday when the West Virginia governor reacted to the news. Let's play it here for just a moment. Actually, give me just a second before we play it here. Sorry for the silence. So again, back to what I was kind of saying here, lots of questions into who this man is, seeking that he is a Afghan national. It said multiple news stations also reporting that he was an illegal immigrant. He entered during the Biden administration, overstaying his visa. That's a question that is going to be asked. I do want to turn now to Patrick Morrisey, who is the West Virginia governor. He addressed all of this yesterday. Take a look.
Two West Virginia National Guardsmen were brazenly shot in Washington, D.C. This was an act of unspeakable violence. Our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers go out to the brave service members, their families, and this terrible tragedy. We're going to Virginia. I know the state stands behind the Guard. I know the president, who I just spoke to, stands behind these courageous service members and our state to get through this really difficult time. But just know, we're going to keep working to make sure that justice is served.
Okay, so that was West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey there addressing this shooting. They're saying he had spoken to the president, and that West Virginians were kind of going to get through this. No major updates, of course, in that video. The president also sending out a video. We will play that a little later in our coverage just because it is about 4 minutes long. Not sure if we have 4 minutes. We might, we may not. So I don't want to start playing it and then have to break out of it. So again, we are waiting for this press conference to begin for those just joining us on this, where they are expected to provide an update on this National Guard shooting. It's starting at Judge Jeanine Pirro, I should say, attorney of the District of Columbia, and it looks like, nope, okay. Thought it wasn't the whole crowd of the important people we're looking to hear from. But again, this where I was going with that, this being held at the interim attorney, I believe, of the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. I'll have to look up, is she interim? I'm not sure if she's interim or is she serving long time here. Nope, she's the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. Yeah, so we're waiting for that to begin here on the left side of your screen. When it does, of course, we're going to take you there live. Lots new updates as what we were talking about before we send it to that video. Again, questions into this suspect who's said to be a lone actor and that it was a targeted attack when he, to put it into words, got to ambush these two National Guard members. We have some video from the scene from late yesterday. This is yesterday. Just showing you some video at this scene. It was pretty messy. I'll tell you, there were a lot of people out. It cleaned up, of course, after a little bit. It looks like this camera may be backing up, maybe was told to back up. Not sure from what point in this scene it was yesterday, but just, again, some film we have in from yesterday when this all was happening. So another big question that I mean, if I was in that room, that I would ask, kind of, where the what is the status? Sorry, I was thinking how to word it there. What is the status? What is the condition? That's the word I was looking for on these two guard members. What things look like. That is going to be a question that is going to be asked. Okay, we'll take it to that feed when it cleans up. Again, let's take you back to this room where we are expected to hear from DC authorities and officials. We're expected to hear from Jeanine Pirro, I believe, as well as maybe some other people. Exactly, I'm not exactly sure what the list of people are that are expected to speak here in just a moment. I might be able to check. Yeah, so the suspect has been identified as Ramanullah Lakamoa. And I'm sure I'm butchering that, but very hard to pronounce. The suspect, again, I'll just repeat that name for just the second time here. Ramanullah Lakamoa. He's believed to have entered the U.S. legally back in September 2021, following the United States' withdrawal from Afghanistan. Sorry, I wonder if I'm able to show you guys my screen. I might be able to. Sorry, I'm reading this report here from the local Fox affiliate. Maybe I might be able to show. Oh, I see it. Okay. Might be able to show my screen here. We'll see. There we go. Okay, I can show my screen here for just 1 second as we wait for this press conference to get underway again. I was just reading this part right here where it talks about this suspect identified there. You can look at the spelling, see how you would pronounce it. Probably not how I pronounced it. But it says Fox News reports that Lakamoa had worked with the CIA, and this is being investigated as a possible act of international terrorism. This is the only suspected gunman at this time who was also shot and taken to the hospital. I had noted that a moment earlier. Emergency vehicles, the Joint DC Task Force, and the Washington Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives responded to the incident. The FBI is also assisting in the investigation. Yeah, this is kind of a good point here, good paragraph here to read here. The Trump administration, President Trump really, on Truth Social yesterday saying that they're going to send down 500 more National Guard members. Democrats already taking to kind of say, oh, well, how's that going to help? Is that not going to lead to more threats, more incidents like what we saw yesterday afternoon? I think a very valid point to pose. I mean, is it increasing safety, decreasing safety considering, but also there's only been one incident that we know of in DC since the Guard was ordered back in August. Just to provide a little bit of context here, the National Guard's only in DC because back in August, President Trump ordered that the National Guard go there to kind of increase safety. Originally, the police chief and the mayor of DC were against it. The mayor later changing her opinion, saying she's for it. President Trump saying it's a decreased crime majorly and that the streets of DC are safe. So that's kind of the argument between those two. But again, the president, like yesterday, saying is going to order 500 more National Guard members to DC. Secretary Pete Hegseth said President Trump also asked him to send extra troops shortly after the incident occurred. The National Guard's presence in Washington has been a contentious issue with more than 300 West Virginia National Guard members deployed in August. Recently, about 160 volunteered to extend their employment while others returned to West Virginia. Last week, a federal judge ordered an end to the deployment but also put her order on hold for 21 days to allow the Trump administration time to either remove the troops or appeal the decision. So that's the story coming in right now. That is from Fox 5 there in DC. So credit to them on that story that is again just coming in. We are standing by for that press conference on this shooting that occurred yesterday on 2 National Guard members. The latest update on their condition is that they are in critical condition at 2 separate hospitals. At least that part of the story, according to the president. We are again standing by for this all to begin. When it does, of course, you have a live shot there, and we'll listen in completely when it does. We are going to show you now a video from yesterday. President Donald Trump reacted to the news. Just making sure this event wasn't getting underway. It might be here soon. Sorry, I was originally kind of skeptical to play the 4-minute video of President Trump reacting simply because I didn't know when this was going to get underway. Here's what we'll do. You'll have to give me just a second. Okay, we're going to play the video. If they walk out while it's all happening, of course, we'll dip back out of this video. So, here's President Donald Trump reacting to the news yesterday.
My great fellow Americans, earlier today, on the eve of the Thanksgiving holiday, 2 members of the National Guard serving in Washington, D.C., were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. They had been deputized as part of the most successful public safety and national security mission in the history of our nation's capital, the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which has achieved an unprecedented reduction in violent crime and crimes of all type. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. The hearts of all Americans tonight are with those 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard and their families. The love of our entire country is pouring out for them, and we are lifting them up in our prayers. As we are filled with anguish and grief for those who were shot, we're also filled with righteous anger and ferocious resolve. As President of the United States.
Okay, got to dip into that because the press conference here, you see the FBI director, attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, the mayor of DC, all there. Let's listen in here.
You know, it seems like we've been here before. Is this working? Is this on? It's working? All right. Thank you all for being here on this difficult day. As you know, my name is Jeanine Pirro. I am the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, and I am joined here by several individuals who represent agencies who have been working around the clock since this horrific event happened. To my left, we have the director of the FBI. We have General Leland Blanchard of the National Guard. Mayor Bowser is here as well. We have Frank Saldana of the DEA, Chris Hecht of DHS, Executive Assistant Chief Jeffrey Carroll of the MPD, Darren Cox of the Washington FBI Field Office, and a Special Agent in Charge, Samuel Ward of the ATF in Washington. Now, I want to provide you with an update on the tragic shooting that occurred on two brave members of the West Virginia National Guard as they served in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, today, as most families join together to give thanks for the blessings that have been bestowed upon them, two families are shattered and destroyed and torn apart as a result of the actions of one man. First and foremost, our hearts go out to the victims and their families. These are dedicated service members who were performing their duties in service to our nation, and they are currently in critical condition. They have undergone surgery. We pray for their well-being as they continue to be cared for in the best possible way. We have been in constant contact with their families and have provided them with every resource needed during this difficult time. The two National Guards men that we're talking about are Sarah Beckstrom, who's 20 years old, and Andrew Wolf, who is 24 years old. They were uniformed members of the West Virginia National Guard, and they were in D.C. to keep D.C. safe, pursuant to President Trump's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. They answered the call, they took the charge, they volunteered, they put their lives on the line for people they don't even know. And that, unfortunately, is becoming a reality more and more for the members of law enforcement. Yesterday on Thanksgiving Eve at approximately 2:15, near 17th and I Streets in the northwest section of the district, near the Farragut West Metro Station, two uniformed guardsmen were ambushed in a brazen and targeted attack. A lone gunman opened fire without provocation, ambush style, armed with a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. One guardsman is struck, goes down, and then the shooter leans over and strikes the guardsman again. Another guardsman is struck several times. Fellow guardsmen who were there responded immediately, engaging the suspect, neutralizing the threat, and subduing him at the scene. He was transported to a local hospital where he remains, as we speak, under heavy guard. Thanks to the swift and coordinated response of the National Guard and the Metropolitan Police Department, no additional victims were harmed, and the scene was secured within minutes. The suspect, he has been identified as Ramanullah Lakhanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan who entered the United States under Biden's Operation Allies Welcome, a program following the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. He resided in Bellingham, Washington, with his wife and, we believe, 5 children. And we're working very closely with our federal partners, especially DHS and the FBI, to review his immigration history and the vetting process itself. What we know about him is that he drove his vehicle across country from the state of Washington with the intended target of coming to our nation's capital. As we stand here today, the charges that are appropriate right now are 3 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed, a violation of D.C. Code 22-401 and D.C. Code 22-4502. He will also be charged with possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. He faces 15 years under the assault with the intent to kill. We intend to continue monitoring what the charges will be, depending upon the well-being of the guardsmen. We are praying that they survive and that the highest charge will not have to be murder in the first degree. But make no mistake, if they do not, that will certainly be the charge, murder in the first degree. The Department of Justice, under Attorney General Pam Bondi, is committed to a thorough and an impartial investigation where we will hold this perpetrator accountable under the full weight of the law. Now, Sarah and Andrew volunteered. They came here to protect the people of the district, pursuant to a crime emergency that President Trump rightly declared in this city and in other cities across the country. Our nation's capital should not and must not be a place where evil comes to commit violence, whatever their cause or motive may be. We should not have to live in fear in the nation's capital, especially by one who came here from a foreign country. Through a process that was so absurd that he came through and released into this country, as many were, knowing virtually nothing about his vetting. This is what happens in this country when people are allowed in who are not properly vetted. These guardsmen and all who are here to protect the district are the line that separates a civilized society from a barbaric one. They are the ones who stand for law and order. This was not just an attack. It was a direct challenge to law and order in our nation's capital. And the individual will be made fully accountable. And though it seems that we have been here before under President Trump, make no mistake, and the Attorney General, we will not allow this to be normalized. It will be confronted, condemned, and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Now, my message to the individual who committed these acts is you picked the wrong target, the wrong city, and the wrong country, and you will be sorry for the violence and the evil that you perpetrated in our nation's capital. And now I call upon the Director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thanks, Judge. I'll begin my remarks and my remarks the same way, with prayer for our fallen soldiers, prayer for our law enforcement community, prayer for our National Guardsmen and women, prayer for our brave prosecutors at the Department of Justice and the offices of the D.C. United States Attorney. We must come together as a nation, especially on this Thanksgiving Day, and remember the sacrifices that so many are making around the world and around this country to secure our freedoms under President Trump's brilliant leadership and administration. I'll provide an update on the case as follows. It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI is leading out on these federal assault on a federal law enforcement officer investigation on many fronts. We immediately, with our law enforcement partners in the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, secured the scene, seized the weapon, sent in our evidence response team immediately to collect evidence, and started doing block-by-block canvasses. We are looking for and interviewing witnesses. The firearm and other materials have been sent to our Quantico laboratory already yesterday for immediate analysis. That work is ongoing. Partnering with the D.C. United States Attorney's Office, we have also executed multiple search warrants around the country to include the subject's last known residence, which is in the state of Washington. The search warrant was executed on that house last night or early this morning, and it is an ongoing process. All the individuals found in the house have been interviewed, and some interviews remain ongoing. We will not stop until we interview anyone and everyone associated with the subject, the house, and every piece of his life. There's also subject interviews, relations conducted in San Diego, pursuant to our ongoing investigation. So, as the judge noted, this is a coast-to-coast investigation being led right here in Washington, D.C., and this subject definitely did pick the wrong country. And we will rise together as a nation to show the world what we do here. And we are thankful that we have the Attorney General's brave leadership and President Trump's brave leadership and priorities to safeguard our communities. I also spoke to Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, last night, and Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States of America. That is what a broad-based international terrorism investigation looks like. We will provide continuous details to the American public while at the same time not jeopardizing the ongoing prosecution to ultimately hold this perpetrator accountable in our courts of law. We will provide as much transparency as possible, but as you can see, the breadth and scope of this investigation will continue. We will continue to hit the streets and hit every town and every house and talk to every witness. The men and women of the FBI and the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, to include the Department of Homeland Security, DEA, and ATF, are working tirelessly on this Thanksgiving Day. And I know just by talking to the leaders behind me that instead of going on and being with their families, everyone rogered up and showed up to work today. And none of them want to go home. That's the resolve that we have together as a team to bring to you justice for this heinous act of terrorism here in our nation's capital. And as the judge said, we will ensure that our law enforcement partners are out there in full force to make sure the world can enjoy our nation's capital. We will not let this heinous act of violence prevent people from visiting our beautiful nation's capital. And we will also continue to highlight any evidence that we can publicly. And as the judge said, this individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone: because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet anyway, in any way, shape, or form, this individual and countless others, and this administration has taken the rightful step to stop any further allowance of people with this similar background into the country, and we're thankful for that. And as I said, this investigation remains ongoing, and I think I'll turn it over to General Blanchard of the National Guard now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. All across America this morning, families are waking up. They'll spend the day with their children, their brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, friends from across the community. There will be the smell of turkey, all the fixings. They'll watch parades, football games. They'll pray together. They'll talk about what they're grateful for. This morning, there are two families that will not have that opportunity. Andy and Sarah's families, they're spending the day reflecting on the past. And in the days coming, they'll reflect on and think about what could have been, what might be. Because regardless of the outcome, we know that their lives, their families' lives are all changed forever. Because one person decided to do this horrific and evil thing. And all across America, we are also reminded that there are many law enforcement agents, first responders, soldiers, service members all around the world who at best will come home, eat some cold turkey, open up Tupperware, eat what's left over, because they spent the day defending the American ideals, getting out there and getting after it on every American citizen's behalf. I will say that the District of Columbia National Guard, this task force, is more committed this morning to the President's directive to make D.C. safe and beautiful. Our resolve will be tested. It is being tested. But make no mistake, each and every one of these soldiers and airmen will meet and exceed the expectation that we have for them. They are, in fact, America's best. I'm proud of each and every one of them. I pray for each and every one of them today, and in particular for these two young service members who are willing to go above and beyond and pay whatever price our nation asks of them. I ask every American today to keep them in their thoughts and prayers as you go about your day Thank you.
Thank you, General. Mayor, where's Mayor Bowser? Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I want to associate myself with the remarks of our Adjutant General from the D.C. National Guard. I want to be very clear what the judge and everyone has reported here. Somebody drove across the country, came to Washington, D.C. to attack America. And that person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. These young people should be at home in West Virginia with their families.
ATF, anybody? DHS? Anyone? Okay. I also want to say that both Sarah and Andrew, I believe, were sworn in less than 24 hours before they were shot on the street in Washington. Any questions?
Could you drill down on a possible motive? Have you gotten any information and intelligence on a possible motive for the shooting?
You know, as the directors indicated, this is a fluid investigation. People are working around the clock. It's too soon to say what the motive is, but there are definitely areas that we're looking into, but not ready to say.
Can you characterize a little bit about how the assailant was taken down after he opened fire?
Yeah, he got shot
But by another guard?
by another guardsman, yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that he had the shooter had initially shot one of the guardsmen, then leaned over as they were
Shot him again. Yep.
How many shots are we?
Well, the specific number. Look, he had a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. Okay, so I believe that's a 6-shooter. Yeah. So you know, that kind of tells us how many shots he had. Yes.
Judge, you had mentioned we've been here before because we have. It was May when we were last
Yeah.
here. I want to ask if you could please comment to, obviously, we understand that you're saying this is under the Biden administration, and the words are that it was a failed withdrawal, and what happened there. There are people who are also upset with the president believing that the National Guard members should not even have been there if it were not for the executive order.
I don't even want to talk about whether they should have been there. We ought to kiss the ground and thank God that the president said it's time to bring in more law enforcement to make sure that a city that had the 4th highest homicide rate in the country was that violence was quelled. I'm not even going to go there.
Question for Director Patel. Was the suspect granted asylum, and if so, when did that happen, under which administration, and did authorities miss any signs, either in the asylum process or even back when he reportedly worked for the CIA, if you could talk about that?
Well, you miss all the signs when you do absolutely zero vetting. And that's exactly what happened in this case. When you, in the prior administration, made the decision to allow thousands of people into this country without doing a single piece of background checking or vetting, that's how you miss every single sign. And Secretary Kristi Noem has put out details specifically related to your other questions, so I'll let that speak for themselves.
Specificity of when he was granted, if or when he was granted asylum, if you could just clarify that timeline and...
Yes, I believe Kristi Noem put that out, and that's a DHS matter, and I'll refer it to them.
Could you elaborate on the investigative steps that were taken in
Sure.
San Diego? You mentioned Bellingham, Washington.
Sure.
But could you explain the San Diego connection?
So what happened was, thanks to the quick investigation by the interagency and the FBI, we were able to track down his last known residence. Working with the United States Attorney's offices here and at the Department of Justice and prosecutors across the country, we were able to serve search warrants literally overnight and through the night.
All night.
And we were able to hit the house in Washington State. During that process, we seized numerous electronic devices to include cell phones, laptops, iPads, and other material that is being analyzed as we speak. Pursuant to that investigation and any known associates of the subject and of that house is how we ended up in San Diego, where interviews were conducted and are going to be continued to be conducted. And we will go anywhere in the country or the world where the evidence leads us.
Are there accomplices, relationships in San Diego you can talk about?
All of that is an ongoing investigation.
Can anyone give an update as far as Sarah and Andrew, who were injured? You say critical condition. Can you give anything beyond that? Are they expected to make it? Is it touch and go? Can you tell us a little more about how they're doing?
And the full spelling of their names, please.
It is Sarah Beckstrom, Beckstrom, and Andrew Wolf with an E, Wolfe. Okay, and Sarah Beckstrom, S with an H. Okay, now with respect to their medical condition, as I said, they are receiving the finest medical care. Their families are with them now. They are critical. I think you understand the meaning of that. It's not clear, how this is going to end up. But let me be perfectly clear about how it will end up in this office. If one of them is to pass, and God forbid that happens, this is a murder one. Period. End of the story. We are praying on a day like today when families come together in America and they hold hands around the Thanksgiving table. I beg you, I beseech you to pray for these two young people that they survive. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Happy.
Yeah, we're not going there. We're not going there. No. Thank you.
Decision not to charge him as a terrorist? What about the asylum process that led him to get asylum under the Trump administration?
Alrighty, that press conference there wrapping up on an update on this shooting that occurred yesterday on two National Guard members. If you will stand by with us, we'll get you the information that we know right now and the notes from that press conference that again just concluded. Okay, there we go. So that press conference just concluding on that incident that occurred yesterday around 2:15 when a man identified as an Afghanistan national who, as you heard there from the FBI director, did have, in a way, he said he got the information from Pete Hegseth, who is the Department of Defense secretary, that in some way he was connected to the Afghanistan military in fighting against the Taliban. They are in some way the exact connection unclear. But again, the big news here, a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver was used in these attacks. The name also released of the two National Guard members that were shot, Sarah and Andrew, Sarah Beckstrom, and then we have Andrew here. Didn't catch that last name completely. This man, his name also identified. The suspect here who was shot by another National Guard member, that was confirmed. We knew he was in the hospital. His condition, the suspect's condition, of course, unknown. His name is Ramanullah Lakamwal. He, again, an Afghan national. The attorney for the District of Columbia also confirming there that this man drove from Washington State in a vehicle all the way to the state's capital. He is being charged at this moment with three times assault, attempt to kill while armed, and one attempt at possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. He was again welcomed. Operation Allies welcome. That was soon after Biden's administration pulled the U.S. military out of Afghanistan back in 2020, early 2020. So again, that news just coming in out of this press conference. Want to play a video for you. The president reacted earlier, late yesterday on this news. I should note, the shooting happening outside of the close to the White House. The president is not there right now. Give me just 1 second. The president is in Mar-a-Lago right now for the Thanksgiving holiday. So again, let's take you now to that video. This is from President Donald Trump reacting to the news late yesterday.
My great fellow Americans, earlier today, on the eve of the Thanksgiving holiday, two members of the National Guard serving in Washington, D.C., were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. They'd been deputized as part of the most successful public safety and national security mission in the history of our nation's capital, the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which has achieved an unprecedented reduction in violent crime and crimes of all type. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. The hearts of all Americans tonight are with those two members of the West Virginia National Guard and their families. The love of our entire country is pouring out for them, and we are lifting them up in our prayers. As we are filled with anguish and grief for those who were shot, we're also filled with righteous anger and ferocious resolve. As President of the United States, I am determined to ensure that the animal who perpetrated this atrocity pays the steepest possible price. I can report tonight that based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden, a disastrous president, the worst in the history of our country. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat.
Okay, that was President
facing our
Donald Trump
nation.
reacting to the news late yesterday, calling the attack disastrous, blaming it essentially solely on the Biden administration attacking Operation Allies Welcome, which, of course, he is an illegal immigrant now. He overstayed his visa, but again, he still will be charged in the court here, according to our knowledge. Talking about those flights for Operation Allies Welcome, attacking Biden, calling him the worst president in the nation, essentially, paraphrasing, of course, there. I'll tell you a little bit about that story. The Judge Sydney, I keep wanting to say judge because I've seen her so much on Fox News back when she was a host over at the 5. She's now attorney, Janine Pirro. She explained the story, kind of saying that he shot one of them, unclear which one of the victims here, Sarah Beckstrom or Andrew Wolf. Then the other one is struck several times. Within minutes, the suspect, Lockham Wall, was also struck by another National Guard member. She said the scene was secured in just moments. You're taking a look live, I should say, from video from yesterday at this busy and chaotic scene when this all occurred. Of course, it was just minutes away from the White House, very close to the White House. The president was not there at the time. You must also note the White House was put on lockdown for a little bit of time there after the scene was secured. They were put back off a lockdown there. So that was a look from yesterday there at the chaotic scene again. So moments ago, the District of Columbia officials, the mayor, the attorney for the District of Columbia, the United States Attorney, the the National Guard of District of Columbia commander, he also spoke, as well as FBI Director Cass Patel, all speaking, providing an update on where things stand here. Excuse me. As you continue to look again on the left side of your screen at that footage, that will conclude this Brooklyn News special report. It's been a pleasure to be with you guys throughout the last little bit as we take you again on a look there at the White House. That does it for us on this Thanksgiving Day. Again, this update, the names released, the big update that the people, the two victims, are still in critical condition. We are going to continue following this on all of our social media and over at brooklynnews.com. That concludes this Brooklyn News special report.